There we go. All right. Hello and welcome to the most amazing, the most fabulous, no, the first ever, the very first in history Lenovo Google Plus Hangout. Wait, there was one 12 hours ago? All right, well, it's the second ever Google Plus Hangout for Lenovo. And so thank you very much to those of you who are participating and to those of you who are watching from the outside into the fishbowl. Thank you for joining us. And we're here to talk about Yoga PC today. I'm Gavin from the social media team. I don't know if you're seeing my name and faux Angolan flag backwards. Is it backwards? No, it's good? All right, so it's only on my side. Good. I'm from the U.S., but I've selected the Angola flag just because I think Angola is a cool place. I think it's a cool flag as well. Anyway, let's cut to the chase, and enough being hammy. I'm very pleased to be joined by Meredith from the social media team. Hello, Meredith. And also Nick
Hey,
Reynolds. Hey. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Hey man, I'm doing great.
Good. Nick is going to be our genius product know-it-all guy today, and I look forward to hearing his stories about yoga. And then we're going to hear quite a bit from Nate, who's here in the U.S. in Virginia. Nate, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good, Gavin. Thanks.
Good, good. And guys, let me know if the sound gets bad or weird. I know it's a fairly lo-fi concept here, but we don't want it to get too low. Nate, in just a moment, I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about the experience that you've had. Nate's had a yoga with him for the last couple of weeks, and he's sort of the focal point for our story today. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to a couple other friends of ours who are here. I wanted to say hi to Jeremiah. How you doing, buddy? All right, he's in the zone. And I also wanted to say hi to Joe, who I'm just meeting tonight for the first time. How are you, Joe?
I'm pretty good, Gavin. How are you doing?
Good, man. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. We've got one spot open. We might see our friend Michael pop up at some point. We'll see how it goes. But let's cut right to it, and let's switch to Nate. Nate, you are a longtime ThinkPad fan, as far as I know. But you've been playing around with the yoga for the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to hear, what you think of it in general, but also how you've been using it. Presumably, you're a traditional laptop user, so I want you to be straight with us and tell us, have you just used it as a laptop, or have you gotten into the various usage modes that we've been talking about here at Lenovo? Tell us a little bit about yourself up front, and then just spill the beans to us and tell us about your experience so far.
Sure, no problem. Appreciate the opportunity to play with the yoga a little bit and then to share the experiences that I've had with it for the last couple of weeks. As Gavin requested, a little bit about me. I guess you could call me propeller head tech geek. I've done it all my life, all through high school, and through working in working jobs, career all along. I'm a scientist by training and a tech geek by desire, I guess you could call it. Currently, I run the operations for a small biotech company here in Central Virginia, and that allows me to do everything, including all the computer kind of stuff. And recently, I started to fulfill, I guess, a technical support role in the Lenovo communities, and Serena CU thought that I was doing a good job, so she drafted me into the team there, and the rest is history. She asked me if I wanted to try out a yoga, and so yeah, I got one. So I'd like to just sort of jump right into it, I guess. That's what you're after, Gavin?
Yeah, please do. Maybe before you do, I'll just point out to anyone who's following this on YouTube, we are encouraging people to send in questions via Twitter. Of course, our Twitter handle is at Lenovo, and we're hashtagging this both with yoga and Lenovo Hangouts. So please send in your questions, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. And before we send it back to Nate here to tell us about his time, I just wanted to welcome Michael. How are you, Michael?
Hi guys, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good, man. It's good to see you.
Having a little technical trouble getting in, but I'm here now. So.
No worries. And I'm going to remind our participants, make sure to mute your audio when you're not talking. And I'm going to turn it back over to Nate, who's going to tell us about his experience with yoga.
All right, great. Thanks, Kevin. And please, jump in if I move too quick or I miss something that you really need to see. So I'm going to move this here slowly and see if I can't get things into focus for people. And there you go. There you have yoga. It's four computers in one, basically. Right now you're seeing it in its traditional laptop mode, and as Gavin had mentioned, I'm pretty much an old-school ThinkPad guy. I played around with a few of the convertible, that is the swivel LCD-type tablets like an X61T and an X200T. But this is really my first foray into the IDEA series of products, and certainly into touch mode in Windows 8. So what you see here is what I think is a really nice laptop in and of itself. I mean, it feels really nice. I guess it's a faux leather palm rest. It feels good. It doesn't feel inexpensive. It actually feels expensive. And I think I have a couple of clients who are going to want it because they like that luxurious feel. So again, what you see is, you see the laptop mode here. It starts up in Windows 8 with the new Windows 8 start screen. Touch screen, full touch screen capability, of course. Charm. And the application. What I find interesting is that I use it in this mode a fair amount because I do create documents. It's good for production of information. What I find interesting, and I shared this with some people earlier anecdotally, is again, being a traditional ThinkPad person, I find myself reaching for the track point. And I do it the same way with this thing too. I'm looking for the orange eraser head. And it's just not there. And for a while, it threw me, but I have so much muscle memory built up from years of traditional ThinkPad usage, I keep reaching for it. And it's just not there between the G and the H and the B. But what I found is happening automatically, I guess, is I'm reaching to the screen. And I'm just using the screen instead of the touch point. And it's just as easy, if not easier, right now. At least the way I feel about it. So I like it. I like using the laptop in desktop mode mostly, quite frankly. It's the production mode for creating documents, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, those kinds of things. This is more of the consumer mode of information, entertainment, Twitter, and those kinds of things. So that's laptop mode. It's a great laptop in and of itself. By flipping screen back a little bit, we can go to, make sure we got it, yep. We can move into what's known as the stand mode. This is really good for entertainment, or for social media, or reading newspapers and things like that. I find that it's really useful for watching movies. I was on a flight last week for business. What I like about it is if you want to watch a movie, it brings the screen very close to you and sits on the tray table. As opposed to a standard laptop, it just seems farther away, it's just a little more awkward. It's just nicer this way. I also find that it's really good if you're in a coffee shop and you want to read while you're consuming information, while you're consuming coffee, I should say. If you want to look at the news, the stock report, the weather, look at your Twitter page, your social media, Facebook, you can do all of that quite easily. I really like this mode. It feels real stable considering the keyboard bezel and the palm rest are in complete contact with the surface, flat surface. It doesn't move around much. It's just a really satisfying kind of a mode. But again, I like it more for consuming information. Go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, Nate, I was going to say, man, I'm kind of jealous of you in that mode because I've had another one of the Lenovo tablets at home for the last few months, and I didn't steal like the keyboard that went with it, or a folio case where you can put it up. So when it's part of my morning ritual on the mornings when I'm at home with my kids or whatever. I always find like a thick book, like an encyclopedia kind of book to prop it up with. And it's kind of pathetic, so it's really nice to see like kind of the elegance of the the stand mode here. And this is the one we also tout as the one when you're on the plane and somebody reclines their seat in front of you. It's the ultimate like annoyance beater or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. Sorry, I just had to cut in and share that.
No, well, I'm glad you did, because pretty much two modes are really intriguing. The laptop mode, because I can do production kind of work, and then this mode, because I can use it as an information consumption device. So really the two modes that I use. I've always carried a laptop with me and a slate tablet with me. This conceivably fills both roles with one device. Let's see how I evolve to it, but that's what I'm thinking. So that's mode number 2, that's scan. If we basically flip it 180 degrees, I guess, we end up in what's called tent mode. And it's very similar to the scan mode. I mean, you're looking at it at an angle. The unfortunate thing is, if you were to Skype or you were to do a Google Hangout, the camera's at the bottom as opposed to the top of the screen. So it might not be as useful there. But I could see it being useful for watching a movie, or again, consuming social media, or reading the news, those kinds of things. What I still am a little concerned about with this one is, in this mode, the tent, if you will, is resting on two narrow edges of the case, and I guess it remains to be seen over time how resilient those are to abrasion and to damage. Also, what I find is when I'm in this mode, if I'm touching the screen, sometimes the whole thing moves, where it doesn't do that in scan mode, where it's got a lot more support with the base and the base. It's the keyboard bezel and the palm rest in complete contact with the surface. So this one is also.
Sorry, Nate. It's kind of getting away from you there when you push on it sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes if I get a little aggressive with it, like if I'm mad at a news story, if I punch it a little hard, it moves across the table a little bit.
Right. So I wonder if Nick wants to jump in real quick, if he has any wisdom for us. I know there is a folio sleeve, obviously, that's optional, that comes with Yoga, that might help out there. But Nick, any advice there for Nate?
Well, I think you should take it off his slippery hardwood table. That's probably the best advice.
But think about it, man. Wherever you go, everything's kind of a slippery, hard surface, right?
Yeah, the good thing about Yoga is you'll actually find it's a whole lot more stable than many other Ultrabooks on the market. It's got a rubberized paint on all of the outside, all of the edges, and it's especially hard-wearing paint. One of the things you said, Nate, was it feels grippy in the touch. It feels robust.
Yeah.
And that paint is actually specifically designed so it will grip on the surfaces. So you've only got a really small area, but we've at least built what we can into the product to make sure you're going to have minimum slippage there. I actually haven't seen it doing that before, so you must have a pretty decent slippery table.
It's minor. I mean, I think that the viewing angle is very similar to the stand mode, so I'm not sure how different it really is. Again, maybe it's because I was mad at the news one day and I was poking at the screen a little too hard. I need to drink less coffee. I don't know.
So, hey,
yeah.
Can I ask you a question? One of the things that I've had asked many times is with Windows 8, you're sweeping in from the left and right, I see, and from the top to close things. Do you want to just run through? Because I can see all the tiles updating on the screen as you're talking.
Sure. So, it's standard Windows 8 interface. So the right-hand side is the tiles. You just swipe in slightly from off-screen onto on-screen, and then you can see them. There's all the goodies there. Power down, all those kinds of things. On the left-hand side is, I guess you could call it task switcher almost. I mean, if you think about it that way, if you swipe in slow, it'll bring forward the applications that are running. So I've got the desktop, I've got Bing Finance, I've got the news, I've got, and if you bring in slowly, I found this the other day, I'm new at this, you bring in slowly and then take it back, it brings open a tile of what's open, which is pretty cool. So you can get back to the start page, or you can come in, like my mother likes to do, play cards. Whoop, switch. The card game doesn't want to switch. Oh well. We're going to go away from it.
Must be a non-approved app.
Oh, that's interesting. Check this out. Charms are.
Nate, you got your pirated solitaire app? Come on, man.
Ah, okay. So, all right. So
All
we'll go
right,
back
really,
to the news, and you
really
see how
quick.
it. Yeah.
Sorry, man. I know there's a slight delay. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I was going to cut in. We had a question that came in from Twitter, and
Sure.
I thought maybe as a brief interlude, if Nick might give us a quick explanation. You know, as you're contorting yoga into the different positions. We had a question that came in from Vijay on Twitter, and so hello to Vijay first of all. But Nick, the question was about the origin of the name, about the yoga name. Where did it come from? I mean, it's fairly obvious from the standpoint of the way the product moves. But what can you tell us about the history of the yoga name?
Yeah, sure. I mean, very briefly, the yoga was designed in the Idea Center in Beijing. So we have an idea design center that designs all the consumer products. And one of the designers there came up with a product about 2.5 years ago, a story that broke really on social media in Engadget. Were, I think, the first to really break the story. What actually happened was a leaking of some photos that this designer had done up. And I've got 1 or 2 of them here. I'll just show you. So it was called the Pocket Yoga. And you can see this is a really small device, kind of like maybe a Nokia communicator kind of style, but with a keyboard that's a bit larger. You can see the hands there. Very narrow, quite tall and thin, and this was really, called the Pocket Yoga, mainly because you could then stick it right in your pocket, in your back pocket, that simply, almost like I suppose an extended cell phone, smartphone that we're seeing these days. So a couple of other photos got leaked out with it, with a stylus device. Maybe give you a glimpse into some of the future things we're thinking about yoga and some of the new form factors. But it was 2.5 years ago this story broke by the designer leaking these photos out and got the world really abuzz about the Lenovo yoga. And really from there, it was the product for the last 2 years has been codenamed yoga. And when we did consumer product testing and research, the overwhelmingly people said, look, in this flipping, folding design, this name makes sense. So hence we called it the Lenovo Yoga Worldwide.
Very cool. And it's funny, if you guys have ever seen our Flickr photo collection, if you dig around a little bit in there, you can find the full set of those photos. Flickr, not really like the most famous social media platform, but there's some goodies on our Flickr page if you look around, So very cool. Thank you, Nick. And you know what we might do? I know we're not done hearing from you, Nate, but we're trying to keep it bouncing around a little bit here. And I wondered if Jeremiah might want to weigh in with a question. Jeremiah, are you there, buddy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you got for us? Any questions?
Well, I do have one thing to say. I still want one of those pocket yogas.
We all do,
I
buddy.
fell in love with that thing. Oh,
Get in line.
But yeah, I think one of my questions is about the tent mode. I'm coming from the ThinkPad side of things, so I'm always worried about, I don't even worry about what if my laptop falls off the cart. It's when or if the coffee's going to go with it. It seems like, when it's in tent mode, it's going to kink up the edges of the laptop frame a little bit. I think I'd rather have it in stand mode. Is that essentially the same thing? Are we looking at the exact same purpose, or is there a little bit difference there?
Yeah. Nick, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, that was a little long-winded.
Well, I think you're right. It's effectively the same, same angle of the PC. I mean, you can, Nate, you can probably demonstrate it as you flip it from, say, stand mode or tent mode, flip it back and forth. So, it's a simple flip. But to be honest, there's a lot of DNA. You said you're a ThinkPad, enthusiast. There's a lot of DNA from the ThinkPad built into yoga. That we really feel that given something that's going to be flipping and folding, we needed to bring some added durability. So from the ThinkPad side of the house, we first of all looked at the keyboard. So the keyboard's slightly recessed from the palm rest. that means your keyboard isn't going to be touching the table. So if Nate flips that back over into stand mode, you might think the keys are rubbing on his nice hardwood table, but they're not. They're slightly below the level of the palm rest, so there's no brushing of that. But we know when he puts it on his lap, it'll be scuffing on his jeans or whatever. And so we did an extra double layer of paint, and we actually brought some of the ThinkPad keyboard, industry-leading keyboard ruggedness, and built that into the keyboard. So you actually find it's a really good keyboard. It's been highly rated so far in the reviews that have come out. So that's really from the ThinkPad side on the keyboard. But the other thing is the hinges. So because you've got this 360 flipping folding design that Nate can show you, once you get to that 180 degrees and it's flat out, as Nate's gonna, well, that's 360. Go back to 180, buddy. But if you fold it flat like that, the keyboard stops working. So from that point onward, your keyboard, even if you touch it with your knees or your fingers or whatever, you're not going to actually get anything to happen. And when he folds it all the way back, 360 degrees, you'll see the very two strong, durable hinges. So they're tested 25,000 times in the ThinkPad labs in Yamato in Japan, which is the home of ThinkPad, where it was first designed and built. And those hinges really have been tested opening, folding 25,000 times. This is what we do for all of our ThinkPads. So we're bringing some of that ThinkPad heritage, building it into the Yoga to make it durable and tough. And Nate, why don't you just try and flex it and move it, because you'll find with the Yoga, it's a lot of Ultrabooks are kind of like a wedge shape. They're pointy at the lip of the screen, and then they get thicker towards the back when you close the device. So Nate will just show us when he closes the device all the way and shuts it all the way down, that the Z height or the thickness of the machine is the same all the way through. And what that does, it builds added rigidity and durability into the machine. And when he flexes it and twists it, right, there's very little flex. So this is the big thing that's different from the Ultrabooks, because many Ultrabooks have a lot of flexing, and really this means that Yoga's truly built to last.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
I would agree.
I wondered, Nick, if you might, while we're talking about this in sort of, what may be excruciating detail for people, but I think it's really cool. I mean, I kind of nerd out on this stuff, and in the course of moderating, Lenovo Facebook and Twitter, and looking at the comments on our YouTube channel in particular, there's a lot of talk about, people are always concerned about the keyboard, so I'm glad you addressed that and mentioned that it's recessed. I know it has a scratch-resistant finish on it as well. But I wondered if you might talk a little more about the hinges as well. Am I right in thinking those are sort of Lenovo patented hinges?
Yeah, absolutely. They're patented. So we have the IP around this unique hinge design. It actually locks in certain positions. You don't feel that, but it's very nice and smooth. But what that means is when you put it like in tent mode, Nate's got now, it's actually fairly rigid and secure. You're not, a lot of notebooks, after maybe 2 years, you're finding there's a lot of flex in the screen and it's drooping. Not our machines, but from the competition. But the hinges, when they're tested at 25,000 times, I mean, that's effectively, I think it was 8 years worth of opening and closing. So those hinges are really durable. They're built to last, and that's why we painted them. And you never know. You might see those hinges creep into some other Lenovo product ranges as well.
Look at you teasing out little fun facts about the future roadmap. That's awesome.
Hey, we don't just use roadmaps. I'm postulating. You never know what
Right. Well, hey, and if I understand this whole Hangout thing right, nobody's ever going to hear this anyway, right? It's just the 10 of us here or whatever, right? There's no live audience anywhere. There's no YouTube. So we're good. So listen, let's change the style one more time, and let's cut over to another one of our friends of Lenovo. I wondered if Michael had a question that he might direct to either Nick or Nate. I think you may be on mute there, Michael. Do you want to try again?
There we go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So first of all, I just want to mention that I hope everyone's seen the awesome yoga commercials by Mark Campbell. I think it definitely goes in the library for Lenovo's greatest commercials for these Windows 8 devices. There's definitely a few Windows 8 devices that you guys released. So we have the ThinkPad Twist, the IdeaPad Lynx, and the IdeaPad Yoga. So what are the main differences between the different machines, and what machine is aimed for what user? There's so many great choices. How do you pick it from those three?
Hey, Michael, it's Nick here. Let me have a shot at that for you. Basically, we don't know today which way the market's going to go in terms of convertible devices. So our thought was, let's bring out devices that flip and fold like yoga, you know, that 360 degrees. Let's bring out a device like Lynx, where the screen is actually the tablet and comes away from the base and the keyboard, so you can use it as a tablet, but you've also got, you know, up to 16 hours of battery life when it's docked into the keyboard. And then we brought out the Lynx, which is probably a little bit more traditional, but of a twisting mechanism where the screen folds down back, but you actually twist the screen 180 degrees before you fold it down into tablet mode. So we actually went, hey, let's look at meeting different customer needs, because we think the Yoga is firmly positioned for consumers. You know, we've got an 11-inch and a 13. The 11-inch gives you like 13 hours of battery life, but the cool thing about the 11 is that you know, we found that most people wanted to switch from a tablet to the 11. You know, they weren't going to switch from a tablet to a 13-inch. They wanted something that's a bit smaller. The 13-inch is great because it's full Windows 8, and you can run all your legacy applications and programs. They're really for consumers. Lynx is really for, I think, you know, people that are very, very mobile. With the keyboard that detaches, it means you're, you know, it's great if you're on the move. And this is really built for smaller businesses and home office. We know when we tested it that people, you know, that are very mobile want that sort of device. And then really the ThinkPad Twist is something that's more robust. It's got TPM for security. You know, it's got the spill-proof keyboard, and it's got some of that, you know, good ThinkPad ruggedness. They've got the track point, as we were talking about. So some of those things that ThinkPad lovers love. And, you know, never know where we're going to take convertibles, but we thought, let's address these market needs differently rather than a one-size-fits-all model, you know, like some of the competition. So we tried to come up with the biggest, widest range, addressing all the different market segments' needs differently. Hope that answered your question, Michael.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Michael, you should know that for us on the inside, you know, it's often a process of discovery. You know, all the many teams throughout Lenovo, you know, for me on social media, and we're always trying to figure out like what's coming down the line, and then how do we, you know, the same way that our sales team is positioning these products to sell them. You know, for me, it's like, okay, you know, sometimes in a selfish way, you want to know like which one's mine, you know, which one's the product for me, man. So, but yeah, thank you, Nick, for that. And I know we're gonna have Joe ask a question next, and then we're gonna bring it around to Meredith, who's on our social team, after that. And we're mindful of the time. We were trying to keep it to 30 minutes, but you know, we want to make sure we exhaust every useful avenue of chatting about yoga. So, Joe, I wanted to turn it over to you and see what you had to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I actually had a customer talk the other day, because that's I actually have I'm a reseller, but the we actually have a twist, and I've talked to a few people about the twist, but I've also, this customer has asked me if Windows 8 Pro is going to be available on the Yoga, because I know there is a little bit of crossover on them, but, I think some people definitely like the form factor and the design of the Yoga, that aren't ThinkPad heads like all of us.
Hey, Joe, do you want me to answer that one, or Gav, do you want to throw to someone else?
It's up to you. Yeah, if anyone else wants to jump in, sure, but you're the guy, Nick.
Okay. Yeah, so real quick, the Lenovo, the Yoga 13-inch absolutely supports both Windows 8 and Windows 8 Pro. So your customers can get both options, really up to them to configure it.
Yeah, sure.
The thing that a couple of customers have asked me was, hey, can we get TPM? So really, if you want that security, it's a good point to sell them and move them to a ThinkPad twist, because that's going to better meet their needs, in my opinion. The other
well, I look for the snow resistance too.
Yeah. The other thing is, Yoga 11. So Yoga 11, importantly, is running Windows RT. Michael, I see on your wall there, you've got like some gaming posters and stuff, and that's actually running an NVIDIA chipset, whereas the Yoga 13 is running Intel. So the Yoga 11 is getting 13 hours of battery life with that, and because it's running a quad-core Tegra 3 processor, it's actually really quick. So really, you can, it's your choice. But the products are fundamentally sitting on different hardware architecture in terms of processors and software offering. Obviously, if you're running Windows RT, you've got to be downloading, your apps from the Windows Store. So not everybody's used to that. And if they want to run their legacy applications and programs, you're going to need to move to Windows 8 or Windows 8 Pro and step up to the Yoga 13 or the Twist.
Okay, thanks.
Cool, great. Thanks for that, Joe, and thanks, Nick. I'm going to kick it over to Nate once more. I feel like I might have cut Nate off a little bit earlier before he was done telling his story. But Nate, I wondered, first of all, if you had anything else that you just wanted to add that you didn't get to. And also, I had one question for you, and it had to do with the display on the Yoga. When we did the unboxing video for the Yoga, the thing that I could not get over was how beautiful the display was. And I'm not a techie, so I don't know if it has to do with it being IPS. I know the IPS thing is important to some people, but to me, the way that the display looked was really compelling, and then also the fact that it's 10-finger touch was kind of interesting to me, and I know that's something we hadn't touched on. So I wanted to turn it back to you, Nate, and you could either address the things that I said or anything else that you had lingering.
Okay, so yeah.
Nate, we can't see your face, buddy.
I know, because you're looking at this beautiful Yoga here.
Okay.
You'll get my ugly mug back in a minute, okay? All right, so, the last mode, I mean, we can just talk about it real briefly, is obviously, traditional tablet mode. Again, I was talking to some people earlier. I've got some previous tablets, and I don't use them in tablet mode because they're too thick. 200T and the 61T, they're thick comparatively to the Yoga. The difference with the Yoga is it's bigger. It's not a 12-inch tablet. It's 16 by 9, and it's 13-inch. It compares well to a legal pad, so a student might, in fact, be able to use it for note-taking better than the 200 or the 61T form factor. I don't use tablet mode that much, but it is growing on me a little bit. I can see where if you were propped up and you wanted to watch a movie or to check the piece of Facebook or something, it would work. But I have to grow on that a little bit. So, answer your other question, Gavin, about 10-finger touch. I don't know enough about it to even demonstrate that at this point. I'm still learning touch in Windows 8. A couple of things that you asked me to demo earlier, though, is with swiping in. So if we bring in an app, you wanted to throw it away, just toss it off the bottom of the screen. If you want to bring up some parameters on the app, you can look at all apps. So Windows 8 is growing on me. I haven't used it in touch until now. I've been using it with a mouse, on a standard laptop. This is new to me. I like it, actually.
Hey Nate, this is Nick. You know, there's a really cool feature that you haven't shown us yet. It's called the Lenovo Motion Control.
I thought you'd look at that.
You able to show us off? So
Sure, why
just
not?
intro guys, you know, this is really cool where you don't need to touch the screen. You literally wave your hand above the screen, you know, up to 2 to 3 feet away, and you can control your way through apps from Microsoft, such as Movie Viewer, you know, Office, PowerPoint, you know, even movies, fast forwarding and rewinding by moving your hand left and right. So Nate, can you maybe show it off?
Yeah, so I mean, I had seen that advertised as a feature, and it is pretty cool. I mean, especially if you're reading a PDF, you can page forward. I haven't played with a lot with movies yet. As I understand that it will work for like switching tracks in like an album if you're listening to music. If we go here, I've got a great document up. It's the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, and it's a great reading. But you'll see this little box pop up for Lenovo Motion Control, and if we enable it, the camera light came on, as you can see, and I've got the document sitting here, and if I wave my hand in front of it, paging. Turn the page. Turn the page. Can you see it? Now, sometimes fix your hand up twice if you get in the view of the camera, so you got to be careful with it. But it's paging forward in the document here. So you could sit here and you could read. You could do the same thing with music tracks, as I understand it, or PowerPoint slides. It's like a remote control without an electronic device.
It's almost like Jedi. I'm sorry.
You like that, Meredith, huh? I wonder if one of you could do it and it could make my machine page forward over there. Try it, Nick. I don't know.
Cool, Nate. Looks like you got the force, man. The force be with you.
So that's the motion control. Gavin, you were mentioning something about, you know, the screen. So you know, an item that kind of hits near and dear to my heart. I'm kind of an IPS screen junkie. I tend not to buy any laptops that are not IPS or AFFS. I cut my teeth on an A31P beast a whole bunch of years ago. I moved to a T43 and then a T60P, and I got an X200T, which is AFFS, and now a Yoga 13, which is IPS. I really like it. Bright, big viewing angle, vibrant colors. I think if I could recommend anything to Lenovo, it's start to offer IPS on everything and charge for it. People will pay for it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, again, moderating all the Lenovo social media stuff. I hear about it, and people, when they talk about it, they're very passionate about it. So I'm going to put that one on Nick. Nick, can you make sure that every single product is available by next week with an IPS display? Great. Yeah. Just sign here.
I'll see what I can do. I think we've got a request for the Lenovo Motion Control and everything as well. At this stage, we're only offering this on the Yoga 13. But we are looking to bring it onto other models and machines in the not too distant future. So at the moment, you got to go out and get your Yoga 13 to access that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Is there anything else you want to see on the machine?
Anything else you wanted to show us, Nate? Otherwise, we're ready to wrap it up, I think. But if you have anything else that you had in mind, feel free.
No, I'm asking you guys. Anything you want me to demo, I'll try to do. I'm still playing with it. I'm still getting to know it.
Anybody of the rest of the gang have any requests for Nate?
Hey Nate, where did you get your machine from? Because I know you're based in the US, and Best Buy is stocking the Yoga in just over 1,000 stores in the US. But was this a Best Buy purchase or on Lenovo.com?
It was an insider deal.
Okay.
It was an inside job, Nick.
That's it, buddy.
Yeah. We put him up to it. We wanted to see, have him play around with it and then see if we could get his feedback after a couple weeks. So, but what we'll do though is we'll show up tomorrow morning and take it away from him, and then he'll be at his local Best Buy the next day. Sad. That's right. So, listen, guys, I was going to turn it over to Meredith on the social team. She may have another question either from of her own or from Twitter. I don't know. Meredith, what do you got for us?
Well, we've got lots that's going on Twitter and on Google Plus. So we've got, I think, questions about, people trying to buy different laptops, and one coming from Richard. So he was asking between the Ultrabook and the Yoga. I think he's considering either machines. So I don't know if any of the guys here on the panel, you guys could help and tell the difference between the Ultrabook, a U310, versus the Yoga 13, for example, on the speed, on battery life, and on the weight. What's the difference, and what is probably a better machine in your point of view?
Anybody want to take that? Michael, anybody?
I'm sorry, just what was the question again?
Yeah, I think basically the question that came in had to do with trying to weigh some of the Ultrabooks that we've had on the market, our U series in particular, right? And Nick is holding up what looks to be a U410 or something, and trying to kind of position this with the Yoga, right? So I don't know. I can certainly ask Nick to answer it, but you guys may have a point of view first.
I did own a U300S a little while back. I had the orange one. I was lucky enough to snag that one. It was a great machine, and when I was able to get my hands on the Yoga, which I haven't had enough hands-on time yet. Who can? It's just such a great machine. But it was like the next step. It was just the leather. Is it leather or a faux leather, Nick? The palm rest.
Yeah,
Textures.
yeah, texture.
It just the machine feels wonderful. It's definitely an upgrade, and like I'm also coming from the ThinkPad side, and I said this over and over again to Gavin, but the hinges on the Yoga are just so sturdy. There's a lot of you're gonna be moving that hinge back and forth, flipping that all the time. It's just they feel it's a really well built machine. It's definitely a step up. Not that the other ones weren't great; the other ones were great also, but you can just see the progress.
Yeah, I think what's been interesting to watch since Yoga came out is I think it's downright surprise, at least among the people I've met in the U.S., where ThinkPad has such a hold and IdeaPad has very little recognition with people. And I think this is the first IdeaPad product, Yoga, I'm speaking of, that has turned heads as far as not just as a beautiful machine, but with the sort of durability aspect. And I think that's where, from me kind of people observing us, Nick, it's been fun to watch. I think it's been an eye-opener for some people. And the hinges, Michael, like you said, when we were at the event in New York where I met you, the hinges there, when you look at the thing, it's like, wow, this is beautiful. And then you see the hinges and you're